it's hard to know precisely what to make of them. I think it was entirely predictable that, well, two things. One is that it was possible the Taliban didn't really intend to keep the commitments they made, or they thought they could make the commitments and still continue some military action. Or in the alternative, and I think much more likely, is that the political leadership of the Taliban who signed the deal in Doha don't really control all the Taliban forces on the ground. And I think that problem has been a central one in the difficulty of trying to negotiate a peace agreement. That said, it's not easy to reach these kinds of agreements. I give our negotiator, the U.S. negotiator Zalmay Khalilzad, a lot of credit. I guess I give the Taliban credit. The agreement is not the one that I would have liked to have seen. But the thing about peace agreements is that, you never accomplish 100% what you want. You wouldn't have a peace agreement unless it was a lot less than what you would want.
Yeah, and this one that was negotiated without the Afghan government, was this the only possible way forward?
I think that's probably true. That is to say, the Taliban were not prepared to enter into direct negotiations with the Afghan government without having some agreement on a U.S. withdrawal. And incidentally, this agreement by itself really represents almost nothing. I mean, it's simply an agreement for a unilateral U.S. withdrawal. And indeed, parts of it are almost comic in the sense that, for example, if you read it, the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, i.e. the Taliban, have to promise not to give visas, passports to people who might come onto its territory for the purpose of attacking the U.S. Well, they're not a country. How can they give visas or passports? But this was the nature of trying to get some agreement, and you end up with in these situations with things that don't look very good. The question is, will this lead to meaningful inter-Afghan negotiations? That's going to be the test of this agreement. The signs are not entirely encouraging. You, of course, had the airstrikes today. You also have a part of the deal was that the Afghan government would release 5,000 Taliban prisoners, and the Taliban would release 1,000 Afghan prisoners. And the Afghan government, not party to the deal, is dragging its feet or reluctant to make those releases. So we'll see if that happens and whether you can start the inter-Afghan talks without having had the release of the prisoners.
One final question. When you saw that after that first false start that they were going to sign this agreement, and you think back, Peter Galbraith, that it's been 18 years that the U.S. has had to maintain a presence in Afghanistan, did you think to yourself, well, why not try this?
Yes, I think one has to pursue all the avenues for peace. This is America's longest war, 18 years, just hard to imagine. But at this stage, the actual military commitment to Afghanistan is just not that great. So it isn't like the Vietnam War where there are 500,000 American troops and high rates of casualties. The desire to get everybody out is there's a very significant political element in it for Donald Trump, who would like to have this for his election campaign later this year. Why not give it a try? And if it can lead to inter-Afghan talks, then I would say it's successful. If it's just a unilateral U.S. withdrawal, much less so. And then the really big question is, if the U.S. withdraws, will the Taliban be able to take Kabul? And I hear different things about it. On the one hand, Kabul is a completely different place from what it was when the small dusty city that the Taliban took in 1996. It's now a city of 4 or 5 million. Lots of people doing well. Lots of migrants. So so will they hold out or will it collapse quickly? There are different views on that. Excuse me.
All right, we'll leave it there. Peter Galbraith, I want to thank you so much for joining us from Palm Beach, Florida.